Good afternoon and welcome to the 12 Report. I am Judith Atibi, standing in for Blessings Musugo. The headlines. Nnamdi Kanu defends herself in court as lawyers withdraw from trial. The federal government condoles with Niger State as death toll hits 42. And Mali military ruler fires commanders after battlefield setbacks. As usual, on the 12 Report, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country. Joshua Marai and Aisha Salihu, as well as Joanne Mustafa, joining us from the capital, Abuja. Here in Lagos, we have Victor Mbadike. And from the south of Nigeria, Delta State, Austin Azu is on standby. We've got the details in a moment. Welcome to the 12 Report. And we begin from the judiciary. The Federal High Court in Abuja detained IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu says he will now defend himself after his legal team, led by Kanu Agabi, SAN, withdrew from the case. Agabi told the court that Kanu had decided to take back control of his defense, prompting all other senior advocates on the team to also withdraw. Kanu confirmed the move, saying he would represent himself for now and declined the judge's offer to assign him new counsel. He then argued orally that the court lacked jurisdiction to try him on terrorism-related charges. News Central's Joshua Marai joins us now for more updates on this proceedings. Joshua, can you give us more update on what transpired at the court today?
It was surprising as the event turned after the lawyers announced appearances in court. And of course, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kanu Agabi, told the court that he is withdrawing legal representation for the detained IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu. Surprisingly, the judge turned towards the dock where Nnamdi Kanu was sitting, and Nnamdi Kanu confirmed to him that, yes, he is taking the reins of his case and is ready to defend himself. Of course, opening his defense, Nnamdi Kanu actually told the court that the court lacks jurisdiction to try him on terrorism charges. This was vehemently objected by the judge himself, who told Nnamdi Kanu to open his case. Surprisingly, one of the lawyers who was representing Nnamdi Kanu, that is the person of Onyechi Ikpeazu, immediately swooped in and told the court that the legal representation was withdrawn just this morning and that the court should grant Nnamdi Kanu more time for him to gather his thoughts and prepare for his case. The judge, however, adjourned to tomorrow for continuation of trial and to enable Nnamdi Kanu open his defense.
All right. Joshua, we thank you for that update. We'll continue to follow this case as a developing story. Joshua, as we're discussing this, what do you expect Kanu to do as he's opening his defense today? Have any of the witnesses arrived, and what's the security situation like at the courts?
Well, as of today, we're expecting tons of witnesses because Nnamdi Kanu has submitted a list of his witnesses that he was supposed to present to the court. But surprisingly, none of those witnesses turned out because we were not anticipating what happened in court this morning. Well, it is expected that Nnamdi Kanu, as now his own lawyer, will prepare for his defense and maybe defend himself while suffering some sort of objection and legal fireworks in the courtroom of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court tomorrow. Of course, the security was tight. The DSS agents were littered around the Federal High Court, ensuring that there was no breakdown of law and order.
Now, still in the capital, but away from the judiciary, where global business leaders, innovators, and policymakers are meeting in the capital for the 2025 Innovate Africa Conference, which is aimed at redefining the continent's leadership and investment landscape. It's themed Reimagining Africa's Leadership and Investment. The conference brings together voices from across sectors to explore how technology, creativity, and collaboration can drive sustainable growth. The annual event is organized by the Innovate Africa Corporation, which is a platform focused on unlocking Africa's potential through innovation and partnerships. News Central's Aisha Salihu is live at the event to bring us more updates. Aisha, good afternoon to you. What are the major themes and insights that are emerging from this year's discussion on leadership and innovation? Aisha, if you can hear me, I was asking about the key themes and insights that are emerging from the events today. Seem to have lost Aisha Salihu there. We'll try to bring you that report. In the meantime, to a very sad note here, as the federal government has commiserated with the people of Niger State over the tragic petrol-tanker explosion that occurred in Essa, Katcha local government area of the state on Tuesday. The government, in a statement signed by the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, on Wednesday, said the incident, which left 42 people dead, had once again brought to the fore the devastating human and material consequences of fuel tanker accidents in communities. The government lamented that despite sustained public sensitization and repeated warnings about the dangers of scooping fuel from falling tankers, some citizens still take such life-threatening risks. May their souls rest in peace. Let's switch gears to electoral matters, as in Kano, the national leader of the new Nigerian People's Party, Rabiu Kwankwaso, has vowed to build the capacity of party faithfuls to be able to resist anti-democratic activities and election results manipulation during the 2027 general elections. Now, this was as he received an award during a lunch organized by the Association of Local Government of Nigeria and the state to mark his 69th birthday. He also reacted to alleged comments made by a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress in the state, saying that the party will do everything possible to win political seats in Kano, warning that the ruling NNPP will resist undemocratic elements trying to sabotage the polls.
Ina son jawo hankalin da akwai yara da muke ji suna magana cewa wani 2027 zuwa su kwaci zaɓe. Ina so in gaya muku abin da za a yi na 2027 a nan jihar Kano da ma Najeriya halin da ake ciki, saboda kowa a ci ne, kowa so yake a samu nasara, a yi samu canji mai nasara mai kyau. Ku gaya musu su daina yin abubuwa da ya shi saɓanin dimokuraɗiyya, saboda idan abin ya taho muka zo kusa da wannan lokaci suna yin wannan zancen banza. 2027 ba 2019 ba ce, sai mun ba kowa a cikin ku ya ɗauki doka a hannunsa ya rike ta.
Still on electoral matters, the Senate and House of Representatives committees on electoral matters are holding a joint retreat in Lagos. The meeting, organized in collaboration with the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, aims to review and strengthen the legal framework of the Electoral Act. Lawmakers say the review will address public concerns and improve transparency, efficiency, and credibility in Nigeria's elections. News Central's Victor Mbadike is at the venue and joins us live. Victor, good afternoon to you. What are the major issues under review in the Electoral Act as the summit is happening?
Well, of course, remember that during the last elections in 2023, there was various issues and concerns raised as regards, the Electoral Act. Don't forget, we're still using the 2022 Electoral Act. And so looking at the issues that Nigerian stakeholders have complained about in the last elections, we're now having a House of Rep and Senate Joint Committee, having to look at some of those issues raised in the last elections. And of course, look at or consider some of the issues raised and concerns and how, some of this document can be put together and then taken back to the National Assembly for, further deliberations. So basically, it's just all about having of course, we have Senator Dixon, who is, the coordinating chairman representing Senator Lalong, and we also have the Senator Abdul Ningi representing Bachi Senatorial District, and all other senators represented here. So at the end of the day, we expect that they will all put up their ideas together and see how they can, champion a better electoral act as far as the 2025 is concerned. Don't forget, we're all looking at 2027, just a couple of years from now. So nobody wants to repeat mistakes or errors made in the last elections, because that will, sound disastrous. Of course, I do have Senator Abdul Ningi here, and we would also like to, give us his statement on what his constituents will be expecting after this meeting. Senator Ningi, thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's have it very quickly. Tell us exactly what proposals, what are we expecting, what should we expect after this meeting regarding the electoral reforms that you and other lawmakers are trying to fix here at this meeting?
Well, thank you for having me. Let me assure you, this is not a one-off meeting. Our meeting today is a product of a retreat, probably hearing in the last 1.5 years. And therefore, what we are trying to do now is to come up with summary resolutions that the two joint committees will be able to take to their various chambers and explain reasons behind the amendments as we're trying to put forward. Some of the amendments looking at the 2023 election and the gaps that was noticed and the expectation of Nigerians for a very fair, transparent election. These amendments that we're seeing has to do with technology. In other words, we were looking at the possibilities of transmitting elections electronically real time, which means as you are voting, results have been assessed by various segment of INEC. We are also looking at possibilities of whether or not we have the ability, the infrastructure to have an election in one day. That means you run the election, 5 different elections in one day. We are looking at the possibilities. We are also looking at the possibilities of whether it is right to have some special staff who run election on that day will have an opportunity to have to vote before the real election, like the security agents, the journalists, the INEC staff. This is what we are debating at this moment as to whether or not we should have the ability to do an election. And by our assessment, we came to a conclusion that when you add security agencies, journalists, observers, we are looking at a rough of almost 5 million voters that day. So this is what we are trying to do. If the argument canvassed by the proponent of this thing, then this resolution will be taken to the floor. We've started with that one, and we are on it, and there will be a vote on it before taken to the visit. Then the bimodal voter card, whether or not you can have your voter card transmitted through your phone, and then you rather than the physical voter card. So we're looking at every options. Our idea is, can we have an electoral system that will add value to Nigerians? Can we have an opportunity whereby when Nigerians vote, their votes will be counted and are taken into consideration? We're also looking at the court processes. What do we do with an election whereby tribunal, you go through tribunal, you go through appeal court, you go through Supreme Court? Is there any shortcut to it? So these are some of the things that we want to make sure, because we have found over time, when you have a sitting elected official, it is actually very rare to remove him because of the Nigerian factor. So we want to make sure that when the president is sworn in, the president is sworn in without any case pending on him. So also members of the National Assembly, Senate assemblies. These are some of the things that we are looking at. We have about close to 20 amendments that we are looking at the possibility of inserting. But that is not the end of the matter here. You now take it to their various chamber, try to convince them as to whether or not these are needed in the electoral system. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Abdul Negi. So basically, the intention of this meeting is just to see how they can, make much better. The Electoral Act of 2022, and see how they can, look at all the issues raised concerning that act, present this case to the National Assembly when they all finish their meeting right here. Do not forget, this is a joint committee of the Senate and the House of Reps. So we look forward to what the document, entails. Of course, we don't have such opinion to that, so we just have to wait. And do not forget, it's a long process. The president, of course, will have to assent to whatever decisions they make right here after this meeting.
All right. Victor, we appreciate you for that. Victor Mbadike, their correspondent, live from the venue for the Joint Committee on just looking at the Electoral Act ahead of 2027. Let's go on a short break. When we return, there's plenty right here on the 12 Report. Stay with us. And we continue. Now, earlier we told you that the global business leaders and innovators, as well as policy makers, are meeting in Abuja for the 2025 Innovate Africa Conference, which is aimed at redefining the continent's leadership and investment landscape. Now, joining us from the capital is News Central's Aisha Salihu, who is live at the venue to give us updates. Aisha, what major themes and insights are emerging from this year's discussion?
Thank you so much, Didi. Well, we're live at the Africa Innovate Conference, and so far the discussion has been that for a continent which is rich in cultural heritage, vibrant population, and also natural resources, they still have some challenges that have been developed in the continent. And most of the challenges that the speakers here have stated out stems from, the issues with governance and leadership, where they're saying that till now Africa still has issues with rapid political power, where most of the political leaders, political elites are lacking of competence, character, and capacity. That alone is creating somehow a downfall trend, with our political landscape. Another challenge that they have also raised is the economic landscape, characterized by poverty, limited opportunities amongst others. And another challenge they have also raised here is human capital and skills gap. And they say most of these things are the reasons why Africa is still where we are and we're not developing the way we want to develop. Another would be the technological innovation barriers. And most of the speakers here have stated that this conference, by the end of the 2 days conference, it is expected that solutions will have been prepared, and most of the solutions that they have presented that's the few speakers that have spoken before the breakout session. They are saying that there should be power metamorphosis where countries should come together, both the government and private individuals to come together and see how they can drive change. There should be that removal of bureaucratic bottlenecks. And also, they talk about technology to drive innovation and investment, mobilizing local and international resources that we have in Africa, just so we can drive innovation and investment. Another is decentralization. They talk about how decentralization can drive participation with civic and institutions.
Right. As we're talking about, the major takeaways, what about some practical commitments that we're seeing? Were there any practical solutions, commitments being announced? Who are some of the keynote speakers, especially during the opening keynote address?
And they are calling on African countries to commit to these solutions, that this is the only way we can drive innovation, we can drive investment, and we can also, the future of Africa's leadership can also be on a different direction.
Aisha, thank you. Appreciate you for that update. Aisha Salihu there. She is our correspondent from Abuja. We switch gears and back to electoral matters. Now, in Delta State, Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has kicked off a nationwide initiative to establish digital learning centers aimed at boosting digital literacy and bridging the technology gap among students. Back to the capital, shall we? Or better yet, let's go to southeast Abia State. Abuja in Akuli Imiyi community is a village neglected and sidelined by successive governments in Abia State. There's hardly any government presence around the village, accommodating more than 500 persons. News Center's Chinwe Ugeli visited the community and brought us this report. Take a look.
Rocky and narrow are the paths that lead to Abuja community from Uzakoli. And save for motorcycles, there is no other means of transportation to the village. It is a farm settlement where farmers and their families reside while cultivating rice, palm fruits, cassava, among other food crops. Although with abundant harvest, there is not one infrastructure. The people who reside here are largely farmers. By my left here is one of the rice farms that where they come to cultivate rice. And during harvest, they will carry their produce through this path that is like a bush path. It's actually very narrow and is muddy.
Then I want to walk. What to Kano's also is a web time here. If I
It is equally an issue to access any health facility during emergencies, given the distance of the health centers in Uzuakoli and Uzuitem.
We try to look health center. The Obromar onye before Brima Valisi, before I get chocolate to taste what time machine Bruno got all the fat.
It goes all right. Before you wear Nkeba pitigeji de godu. Ida geba iteku.
I chọrọ yemaka. Obi kobia yetra yeka.
While there is an MDG-assisted primary school in the community, the people say it is not serving its purpose, adding that they are being washed daily with empty promises by the government, especially during election season. It's 11:50 in the morning, and this place is totally deserted. No signs of teachers, no pupils. Recently, the Abia State government posted some newly recruited teachers to schools. This very primary school also benefited from that exercise. The classrooms will need to be fixed and made conducive for learning for the school children to obviously return to school.
I went to school government in me forever, but because of far distance, teachers are not there. So I can't in I work from Osaka.
But on a regulation, how much to say Babata, I have a chair campaign, have to char have votes, Quadumani, or they can't measure. Nobody ever believe me. I really have all the postal system so that more I need to remain. If you go to the stream, I'm about a million back or bad, and don't have when got a million or the
Meanwhile, Abia State government has assured the community of a new lease of life.
Governor Lesoti's philosophy is that the easiest way to deal with food insecurity, especially in the rural areas, is to ensure that our people have access to their farms.
With a population of more than 500 people, residents of Abuja are demanding the right to choose their own leaders by way of voting. They are therefore asking the government to situate for them a polling unit to allow them exercise their civic duties during election season, just so they could feel some sense of belonging. In Abuja for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
And from Abia to Delta State, where Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has kicked off a nationwide initiative to establish digital learning centers aimed at boosting digital literacy and bridging the technology gap among students. News Center's correspondent Austin Azu joins us live from the Model Technical College in Asaba, Delta State, where the commissioning is underway. Austin, what updates have you got for us at this time?
Okay, good afternoon, Judith. We are still at the Technical College here in Asaba, and earlier on this place was filled up with guests from across the state, where they all converged here to perform the inauguration of this project. But nevertheless, we equally saw the wife of the president doing a virtual commissioning of these 10 digital learning centers across the country. And of course, in South we have 2 centers, Delta and that of Edo State. Okay, yes, and nevertheless, they gave their various speeches eulogizing what the president has done in this part of the country. We have the principal of Asaba Technical College here, Valence Roger. Madam, please take us through what is the benefit of this digital learning center? How do you see it in your school?
I'm grateful for this project. For this, the students can learn faster, dream bigger, and prepare for the world ahead. Okay,
apart from what you just said right now, coming to this place, you are the first pioneer principal in this place. So in what area can this learning benefit the principal, the teachers, and students of this school?
It will benefit the teacher we teach, the learners will learn.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have a favor. Favor, please come forward. Okay, take us through. How grateful are you about this project?
I'm very, very grateful. CBT will help us. It will benefit us.
In what area would this center benefit you as a student?
It will benefit me in different areas. Like, it will benefit me in different areas. As a student, as we're writing work, and we're also writing JAM. So it will improve better learning, understanding, skills.
Okay, thank you. Okay, tell us, how would this center improve your learning skills?
Well, it will improve us because as a computer trained in this school, it helps us knowing more of technologies like graphic and work, programming, and other stuff. So it helps us in them. Okay.
Now, apart from what you just said now, how will you be able to use this now to advance your learning skills among your peers?
Well, this things I just called now, it helps in like this graphic stuff now. It helps in designing this kind of banner, the envelope, invitation card, and other things. So it helps us in them.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Okay, one can confirm, for instance, that this center will enhance their learning skills, and of course, the principal rightly stated that they themselves as teachers and principal were equally keen to this center for them to enhance their teaching skills as well. So the onus lies on the management of this facility to keep it going, and they're equally asking for more because the students in this center are quite more. So back to you in the studio, Judith.
Austin, many thanks. Austin Azu, there, correspondent live from Asaba, Delta State. Now, as Nigeria marks 65 years of independence, leaders are calling for the revival of national values and the spirit of volunteerism among the country's youth, describing them as vital pillars for responsible leadership and sustainable national development. At a national conference in Abuja, organized by the Citizenship and Leadership Training Center, speakers emphasized that volunteerism and civic responsibility must become defining attributes for Nigeria's next generation of leaders. Speakers at the event urged the youth to adopt volunteerism not only as a civic duty, but as a leadership mindset, while participants engaged in panel discussions and debate sessions on ethics and accountability. Winners of the youth debate competition were honored for their ideas on leadership, rounding off a conference that organizers say is part of a broader national effort to rebuild values and strengthen civic engagement among Nigerians' young population.
Volunteerism, at the end of the day, is really just leadership, and we need to be able to encourage our young people to be self-starters, to take action in their communities, and to contribute really well to building the Nigeria of our dreams. So we actually are a center that is very mindful of the fact that our message for the Nigerian youth and for Nigerians generally goes beyond just those who are learned or those who are educated. So that is actually at the core of our mandate, ensuring that we're able to reach everyone, everywhere, every time.
Our youth are majority of Nigerians, so opportunities like this for us to sit down, reflect, and think about how Nigeria's single largest population segment can drive our society, can get us the country that we want, particularly thinking about how we can do that without necessarily sitting and, oh, government, other people should do for me, but rather what as citizens ourselves we can do. I think it's very powerful. I think it's very important. It's ultimately all of us as Nigerians deciding what country we want and the role that our citizens, in this case our young people, can play in that process.
If your mindset continues to be that somebody else is responsible for the situation that you are in, you are inadvertently giving up your mental agency to take on that problem. When I talk to Nigerian youth, I say, yes, youth unemployment in Nigeria is very high. There might be things that should have been done to make it low. But whether or not they make it low. We have to take responsibility to ensure that we are employed. So we will create the jobs for ourselves.
It's day 2 of the Chartered Institute of Directors annual conference in Abuja, where discussions are centered on ensuring leadership continuity and long-term organizational growth. It's under the theme Leadership That Lasts, embedded succession planning into board strategy. Now, experts, directors, and policymakers emphasizing the need for effective succession planning to sustain good governance and business stability. The sessions highlights how forward-looking board strategies can strengthen institutions, preserve corporate values, and prepare the next generation of leaders for sustainable impact. Senior business correspondent Joanne Mustafa is standby for more insight on the ongoing conference. Joanne, it's day 2. What are the key takeaways for today?
Right. The focus has been on building leadership that lasts, companies that last. We had Malam Baba Yusuf highlight that in Nigeria, aside from some of the multinationals, not many companies make it to the 25-year mark. Some of them fall by the wayside along the way, and often it's because they haven't adapted to change. And of course, that is central in the conversation of this conference. Companies adapting to change. Change has been established as being constant. So how can companies stay ahead? One of the key takeaways is on building trust. Investors don't respond well to change. Customers, consumer behavior changes or shifts as a result of change. So how can you hold on to the investors? How can you hold on to the consumers through periods of volatility? Trust has been a key highlight here. Building trust between the companies and investors, building trust between the companies and their consumers, and to foster trust, communication frequently, often of course honestly as well, and communicating early. That has what has been communicated in that regard. There's also been questions about accountability, succession planning, so many strategies to maintaining trust even in periods of change, so that businesses can continue to grow even beyond their founders, and obviously hopefully past the 25-year mark.
Right. And how are industry leaders and policymakers proposing, to implement effective succession strategies within corporate boards?
Yes, so if I got your question right, building a strong corporate governance, building strong company culture, and especially at a time like this, adapting, giving room. Yes, you're holding on to existing structures. Yes, you're holding on to company culture, but you're still flexible enough to adapt to the fast-growing changes and changing fast, not being slow with the pace of change, and also not being a victim of change, but also creating these changes in the boardroom, and also not just from in the boardroom, but obviously coming down to the factory floor. The conversations around inclusion as well as changes occur.
I must say thank you, Joanne, for that. Joanne Mustafa there, senior business correspondent for News Central. The Senate has passed for the second reading the 2025 electoral bill, which seeks to repeal and replace the current Electoral Act 2022. During Wednesday's plenary, the Senate also passed for the second reading a bill seeking to double the basic healthcare provision fund. News Center's Agir Ibrahim reports from the National Assembly.
The bill started on Thursday, October 16, but was stepped down to allow for wider consultation. The bill topped the agenda for Wednesday as lawmakers continued deliberations on the legislation which aims to strengthen Nigeria's electoral process. Deputy President of the Senate, Barrow Jibrin, while opening the session, cautioned lawmakers to focus their debate on the general principles of the bill and avoid delving into the details until later stages of consideration. One after another, lawmakers took turns contributing to the debate.
We should resolve, each and every one of us, and also collectively. We as senators shall not aid and abet unemployed or semi-employed people and arm them to disrupt election. If we reform our character, this problem is 90% solved. The burden of proof in electoral matters, Mr. President, must shift to INEC. We should not subject it to the normal evidential rule that says he who alleges must prove.
It is assumed that whatever INEC does is perfect. So this time around, the INEC must be held responsible because they are the ones that have the electoral materials and they are the ones that are in charge of logistics and all.
The session also saw renewed calls for clearly defining the role of security agencies during elections, addressing the challenges of party primaries and considering voting provisions for Nigerians in the diaspora, among others. The Senate also passed for the second reading a bill seeking to amend the National Health Act 2014 to increase the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund from 1% to 2% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Sponsor of the bill, Ipalibo Banigo from Rivers West, says that it seeks to expand Nigeria's primary healthcare financing base and improve access to essential health services nationwide.
We will double available funding to strengthen these frontline facilities and guarantee access to essential medicines and services, particularly for women, children, and our rural communities.
If we take care of the preventive side of our health system, what it means is that our population will be healthier and their productivity or contribution to economic prosperity will be greater.
The bill attracted broad bipartisan support and was referred to the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary for further legislative work, with a report expected within 4 weeks. From the National Assembly, Abuja, for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
The Nigerian exchange extended its bullish streak on Wednesday, with investors gaining 1.45 trillion naira, 1,456 deals. ASO Savings and Loans and Skyway Aviation led the gain. The Securities and Exchange Commission SEC Director General, and that's Ememotimi Agama, says the global move towards a sustainable finance is reshaping investment strategies, governance, and risk management. Speaking at the 2025 Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Conference in Abuja, he urged Nigeria's capital market to adapt to stay competitive. Agama also highlighted SEC's adoption of the International Sustainability Standards Board framework and the expansion of the Green Bond Program. He emphasized working with stockbrokers to boost ESG investments and improve financial literacy, calling for innovation and sustainability to help drive Nigeria's $1 trillion economic transformation agenda. Mali's military leader sacks top commanders after battlefield failures and losses. We have the details after the break. Stay with us. And we continue news in West Africa, where Mali's military ruler Assimi Goïta has dismissed 3 senior army commanders following reported setbacks in the country's campaign against jihadist insurgents. The officers, including the Deputy Chief of Staff, Head of Military Security, and Army Chief of Ground Forces, were removed after an Emergency Defense Council meeting, with sources citing poor battlefield performance. Mali has faced persistent jihadist attacks since 2012, driven by militants linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Now, despite successive coups in 2020 and 2021, the ruling junta continues to struggle to restore stability across much of the country. And off to Cameroon, where tensions are mounting after authorities postponed the announcement of results from the October 12th presidential election to October 27th. The Constitutional Council has dismissed 8 petitions seeking to nullify the vote, saying they lacked merit or jurisdiction. Protests have erupted in several cities, with opposition supporters alleging fraud, leaving at least 2 people dead in the north. Opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakare has already declared victory, claiming he won 55% of the vote. But allies of longtime leader Paul Biya insist only the Constitutional Council can declare an official result.
Après la compilation des procès-verbaux issus du bureau de vote et la vérification des représentations sur le terrain, il apparaît clairement que nous sommes sortis vainqueurs avec une marge écrasante, un score supérieur à 50% de suffrage exprimé. Un tel rejet, un tel désaveu prescrit au président sortant de faire preuve de courage, d'humilité, et au nom de la démocratie et des us et coutumes, appeler le vainqueur, le féliciter et lui notifier sa disponibilité à organiser une transition heureuse, mettant notre nation à l'abri de soubresauts et convulsions qui naîtraient d'une transition subie et non préparée.
And of the South Sudan, where Amnesty International has raised alarm over worsening press freedom, accusing authorities, particularly the National Security Service, of harassing, intimidating, and arbitrarily arresting journalists. Now, the rights group says that the government has failed to enact laws that safeguard freedom of expression and protect media workers. Reports indicate that journalists, writers, and commentators continue to face persecution, creating an atmosphere of fear and self-censorship across the country. Several human rights organizations and foreign governments have expressed concern that the shrinking civic space undermines democracy and accountability in South Sudan. Joining us now from Juba, South Sudan, is journalist Daniel Dang to discuss the state of media freedom in the country. Daniel, thanks for joining us. How would you describe the current state of press freedom in South Sudan?
Yeah, thank you, Central TV, for having me this afternoon to talk about media freedom in South Sudan. Media freedom in South Sudan is still very fragile. The constitution and the media laws that we have in the country guarantee press freedom and access to information, but the implementations of these laws is something that is still not okay. So independent reporting in the country is still risky, with a lot of intimidations, harassment, and harass that is still being faced by journalists that are practicing here in South Sudan. For the first 2 years, we have seen improvement from the ranking. South Sudan has been ranked 136 in 2024 in the press freedom ranking. And in 2025, it improved at least to 109th in the ranking. But the situation on the ground, the media environment still remains hostile to the practicing journalists on the ground.
Now, what are some of the main challenges or risks that journalists face while doing their jobs?
Well, as I mentioned, some of the challenges and main challenges that journalists face as they do their work is, once, the intimidations that they continue to face, the censorships that they continue to face, and harassment and detentions, arbitrary detention that journalists continue to face, especially when reporting on the critical topics and things that have to do with the government, things that have to do with the armed forces. The journalists continue to face intimidation. So there is intimidation, harassment, detentions, and censorships all together. These are some of the things that journalists continue to face on a daily basis as they report on critical issues.
Daniel, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us today on the news. Daniel Dang, he is just a reporter and a journalist joining us on South Sudan, speaking to us on the press repression in the country. Let's leave Africa, the shores of Africa, all the way to the United States, as the country has imposed sweeping sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, and that's Rosneft and Lukoil, in a move aimed at tightening economic pressure on Moscow over its ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, Washington says the sanctions are designed to curb Russia's oil revenue, which continues to fund its military operations, and to signal growing frustration with Moscow's refusal to engage in meaningful peace talks. The latest measures also follow the suspension of a planned diplomatic meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, underscoring a deepening rift between the two nations. According to the U.S. Treasury, the sanctions will signify or significantly restrict global dealings with Russia's energy sector and could set the stage for further punitive actions if the war continues.
It's a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled.
A tragic fuel tanker explosion in Niger State has once again laid bare how costly shortcuts can become for ordinary Nigerians. Yesterday in the Bida area, a truck carrying gasoline overturned and exploded, killing at least 31 people, and now the number has risen to 42, and so far the injured are still being counted. At this time, during press time, it's now at 17. Now, the victims were reportedly among those trying to collect the spilled fuel from the tanker. The state governor described the scene as heartbreaking. I mean, the visuals can tell you that, while authorities have pointed to poor road conditions and the lack of a functional rail network as underlying causes of this tanker explosions and issues. But this tragedy lies at the intersection of soaring fuel prices, economic desperation, and infrastructure decay. Because when fuel is expensive and access is difficult, especially for people at the outskirts of Lagos, the commercial center, people are forced into dangerous behavior. And one of them is risking their lives for a few drops of petrol. And when roads are neglected for mega roads like the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, I fear that tankers may just become mobile bombs. So for ordinary Nigerians, the stakes are high. Loss of life is the worst outcome. But we also face distributed or disrupted fuel or supply chains because they keep using the deplorable bad roads. There's also higher transport costs as well, and the diverted resources that might otherwise go to hospitals or schools or constructions or road repairs. And each explosion is a warning that without investment in safer roads, better transport systems, and regulation of fuel handling, the next disaster is not a question of if, but of when. And with that said, this is your postscript for today. As we switch gears now, let us bring in sports. The Flamingos suffer a late defeat to France, leaving their World Cup knockout hopes hanging by a thread. But can they bounce back against Samoa, or is this the end of the road? Favor Tuan tells us more. He's on standby. Favor, what's happening? What's going on? Unfortunately, Favor, I cannot hear you. Please forgive us. But that's pretty much all we can take at this hour. Thanks for tuning in for the 12 reports. Now, do remember that if you see anything out there on the roads, make sure to send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. Make sure to follow us on social media, by the way. We're at News Central TV on every social media platform. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, on GoTV channel 23. Find us on Star Times, and that's channel 274. We're also on Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Stay safe out there.